What is going on, guys, and welcome back to something that I don't know the name of yet. It's still haven't figured out a name yet, but it is episode 2 of history of guns or vehicles or whatever in a video game that has to do with real life, so you can relate it to what you're doing. So today we are taking a look at the AK-12. And just a side note before we get into this, excuse the gameplays in this. They're not very good, but uh, I've been playing a lot of Battlefront, and this is one of my first games back at Battlefield, and Battlefront really messes you up. But anyway, let's get into it. So the AK-12, conveniently with the Russians, they love to name their guns after an AK and then the year it was started to be produced, so 2012. Little side note, because the AK-47, AK-74, and AK-12, and AN-94, whatever the year is, because that's Russian. Now, the designers of the AK-12 was, excuse me for the pronunciation of this name because it's Russian, but Vladimir Zlobin. I'm just going to put it in the description, and you can read it for yourselves. I can't pronounce Russian at all. And then we have Mikhail Kalashnikov, the one, the only, the Kalashnikov, who created the AK-47, a subgun that just blanked out of my head. He also created most of the variants of the AK, or helped create those variants. Now, this was Kalashnikov's last gun he designed because he passed away in 2013, 1 year after the gun was starting to be manufactured. So this is the legendary Kalashnikov's last gun. Now, the designing of this gun started in 2010. It took them 2 years up until 2012 until they produced the first prototype. Not prototype, but the first gun. Excuse me. And so in late 2012, early 2013, testing began on the AK-12. It went through trials for a year or two. It did pass all the trials, but in early stages of trials, it did have some reliability problems, and it had some problems, but the Russians, Kalashnikov did not release, or not Kalashnikov, but the Russians didn't release what problems it was due to the fact that they didn't want anybody knowing what the problems were. It hasn't not been adopted by the Russian military because, the Russian war minister turned it down, mainly because they have millions of AK-74s, and to the average foot soldier, the AK-12 and what I'm about to tell you about it isn't necessary, I guess, for the average foot soldier, and Russia does not want to spend the money on AK-12s. It has been adopted by several police agencies in Russia, and I assume special forces are using it, and I would assume Putin's bodyguards are using it, like the top of the line, who's higher trained soldiers who actually it'll make a difference for them. It's kind of like giving a couple $1,000 golf club to an idiot like me, and it's not going to help me play golf. I had Tiger Woods golf club, so it's not going to help an average foot soldier if he has a better gun, really. I guess that was the Russians thinking. Now, getting into the more weights and stuff of the weapon, it weighs 7.3 pounds. It's a little heavier than the M16A4 that weighs just over 7 pounds. The total length is 37 inches, and the barrel length is just over 16 inches. Now, one of the main things about the AK-12 is different about the AK-74 is the ability to change the caliber without completely changing the platform of the gun. And that was a big thing for Kalashnikov, that they changed it so the barrel was easier to change. You can just swap the barrel most of the time, unless it's the 308 or the 308 round. So the cartridges it can shoot, the standard for the Russians is the 5.45 by 39, which is the AK-74 round, and it takes the same mags as the AK-74. Now this gun can also shoot 5.56 NATO. It can shoot the 7.62 by 39, the AK-47 round, and take AK-47 mags if it's chambered in that. There's also a Russian 6.5 millimeter round in prototype, and the 6.5 is kind of that perfect round nowadays. We have like the 6.5 Grindle, and a lot of people think that's the perfect round now. It's a good compromise between 22 caliber and 30. So that's prototype. Don't know anything about it. It's pretty well hidden. This gun was also made in a 7.62 by 51 or 308 NATO. There's also a 12 gauge version made, which is the Sega AK-12 or whatever. It's in Battlefield. As the, give me one sec, let me look. What is it called in Battlefield? I always forget the name of it. It's the Sega 12K in Battlefield. Same platform, just a 12 gauge instead. And it was also chambered in 223 for the American civilian market. Now the action is pretty much the same as an AK-74. It uses the same style of piston to take the gas and cycle the bolt. The bolt is shaped slightly differently, but uses the same rolling lock bolt. Most of the internals of the gun are the same. It is a little more well done than the AK-47 or AK-74 for accuracy, because the AK-47 and the AK-74 is the exact same gun, just different caliber. Let's see. The rate of fire is 650 rounds per minute. 1,000 in burst fire. It's a 3-round burst. The muzzle velocity is between 28 and 2,900 and 5.45. The effective range is 600 meters. The magazine is just standard 30 rounds, same as the AK-74. The iron sights. Now, this is a pretty big deal. Not so much in video games, but in real life, if you're ever shot a gun or know anything about guns, your sight radius is a pretty big deal of how accurately you can shoot the gun. And on most European guns, or not now, but older European guns such as the AK and the Mausers, the sight was in front of the bolt, and it was just a little flipper. Now, American guns, and America kind of pioneered this, like the M1 Grand and some of the Springfields, they brought the sight back to the back of the gun because Americans are marksmen. America. And bringing the sight to the back of the gun, you have a longer sight radius between the back sight and the front sight, which increases your accuracy. This was always a huge flaw on the AK, so they did fix it, and the standard iron sight is on the back of the gun. Now, yeah. The AK-12 has a fully flat rail for optics. Another problem with the AK-74 was the top cover was just a piece of metal that was just stuck on there. So you couldn't really put a rail on top of it because it would just shift around. The cover on the AK-12 is stable. It's planted in. It's made differently. It's not just a little pop-up cover. It's one piece all the way from the back of the gun to the front, like where the piston is and the gas part. So it's all one piece that comes down, and so it's stable when you have a red dot on top of it. With the AK-74, you had to get a side mounting scope optic, or like a rail that came up and over the gun, which added. It was more expensive and still wasn't as accurate. So the accuracy when you're using sights is much better on the AK-12, as the whole gun doesn't move. Now the AK-12, as I said, was never adopted. They also wanted it to be brought in as a civilian weapon for American import, primarily America, because Americans love their guns, and I really wanted one of these things. So in like 2000, it was either 2012 or 2013, the company, the Kalashnikovs, were gonna import these things to America in a civilian version. Of course, no full auto, no 3-round burst, just semi-auto only. And Obama blocked them from being imported, so we won't see AK-12s unless the next president is a little more kind to the AK-12, which I'm really disappointed about. I know it's probably going to be way out of my price range, but I've always liked AKs, and the AK-12 looks really good. Something I didn't note during the beginning when I was talking about everything else is the selector for the AK-12 is moved up above the pistol grip, so you can flip it with your thumb, so you don't have to move your whole thumb or your whole hand to change the fire mode, because on the AK-74 it was on the side. It was just a little it looked like a spoon handle on the side. You flipped up and down. So they moved it to the side on both sides like the M16s are. Also, the charging handle is moved to the top of the gun, so you can use your left hand to charge the thing. You can either switch it so you have the charging handle on the left side or the right side, which is a more modern touch to the AK-12. Yeah, let's see. So yeah, this thing, mentioned this last. There are a bunch of versions of this, and they have a heavy machine gun version, a shotgun, a carbine. This is pretty much just a replacement to what they did with the AK-74, which turned it into a bunch of different variants. Now, will the AK-12 ever be adopted by the Russians? Maybe. I don't know if the Russians will ever change their ways with their guns, because they have their 74s and they work. They'll shoot forever. They get the job done for what they need it. Eventually, maybe, but by the time that time comes when they have the money and they have to upgrade, I'm not sure if the AK-12 will still be the best option. I've heard some people, I can't remember, I believe it's the AE, or no, it's the, I can't remember the gun that could possibly replace the AK-74, but the AK-12 I think is off the table for mass production, unless Russia does change their mind, which it is sad because it is a fantastic gun. So yeah, guys, there it is, a little history behind the AK-12. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If I left anything out, please let me know. And let's talk about a little bit. I do enjoy the people who gave me some feedback on forums and comments. I really do appreciate it, especially the people who gave some positive feedback. It really gave me some motivation to really work hard on this, and I appreciate it. And if you're new here, slap that subscribe button, like it, and tell your friends. I really do love doing this, and I would love to keep doing this, so I would love your support. And if you have any questions, or would you like me to do any weapons you like, please feel free to put them in the comments. I thank you guys so much for watching, and you guys have a good one. Bye-bye.